Hello. Are we talking about Supergirl, maybe? I haven't seen it yet.
Bob.
Save yourself. Don't bother.
I like Superman. I think you hated Superman.
Yeah, I
didn't
love
you?
Superman.
Yeah.
This is slightly better than Superman, but still bad.
It's fine if you like James Gunn stuff. It's also fine if you like superhero-y things. It's not fine if you like characters that are women that aren't absolute knobheads.
This does not look like this is going to end well.
Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Flickering Dreams. I can't believe another month has gone by, actually. It seems like only yesterday that we were recording our May one, but we did have our football special in the middle, of course, which if you've not seen it yet, we selected our favourite football films, given that there's some little event going on, that Andy is actually missing a game, his first game he's missed, just to be here. That's how much he thinks of Flickering Dreams. So thank you, Andy. So we're right at the end of June. We're actually recording this on the 30th. And what we're going to do, as always with these podcasts, is we each get to pick our favourite film of the year, of the month rather. God, what is wrong with my brain? You see, this is what... See, I've been in Jamaica, dear viewer, for last week, and I just flew back and I've got terrible jet lag. Nothing is making sense. We are going to pick our favourite film of the month of June 2026. And then we are going to pick our worst film of the month as well after that, which might be a fairly brief affair, but I will leave it at that. I ought to introduce us all as well, which I always do. Reverend Andy Godfrey from Help Me Andy.
Pure 247 Radio.
Pure 247 Radio. I tell you, my mind is Swiss
Go back
cheese.
to Jamaica, go on.
Yeah, God. We've got Emma Sewell from Emma at the Movies. We've got Scott Forbes from the Forbes Film and TV Review on Facebook. And I'm Bob Mann from onemansmovies.com. So the first up, because we're back, we've done enough of these now that we've gone back to alphabetical order again. First up is Andy. Andy, what did you pick as your mega movie of the month?
So one of my top 5 favourite films of all time is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I absolutely love it. It's Bob's number 1. It's in my top 5. And when I heard Disclosure Day was coming out, I thought, is this going to be a sequel? It's not, but it could easily be in many respects. I absolutely love Disclosure Day. Spielberg back on form with Aliens. Here's a clip.
I'm frightened out of my wits.
You don't need to be. You have someone else.
Daniel Kellner.
Who is this?
Do not go back to the house. They found you. I don't know who you are, but they're gonna kill you.
The human race cannot accept what we know. We need to stop it any way we can.
What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
So this had everything I wanted from a Steven Spielberg film. It had friendly aliens. It had human beings being quite nasty to each other. It had car chases. I think the car chase, the start of which we've just seen, that ends up with them crashing into a train, no spoiler because it's in the trailer, is absolutely terrific, brilliantly filmed. I thought Emily Blunt was terrific as a weather girl who suddenly encounters a small, beautiful bird and starts speaking in an alien tongue. I thought Chris O'Donnell was great. I thought the story, even though it was totally predictable,
Chris
was
O'Donnell?
really, really... Sorry?
Chris O'Donnell?
Did I say Chris O'Donnell?
Josh O'Connor?
I'm coming to Jamaica with you next time, Bob. I thought, even though the story was a bit predictable, you could see right from the outset what was going to happen at the end. I didn't care. I just went with it. I loved it. For me, it was Spielberg back on form. And, he once said, why should aliens come all this way just to blow us up? Why don't they want to come this way and be friendly with us? And I tend to agree with that. And he says he's got definitive proof that aliens really exist. Well, we still wait to see it. But on the basis of this film, hopefully the human race would react in the right way if the truth about aliens was ever revealed. So I absolutely love this film. I was entertained from start to finish. I was never bored. John Williams once again comes up trump with a score, which I sat and relished all the way through the end credits. And I thought this was one of the best films of the year. So everything I wanted from a Spielberg movie.
Any alternative views on this? Because I think a number of you wanted this as your number 1 film
Yep.
of the year, of the month. There we go again. God. Yeah. The funny thing, I mean, how many times have you seen this film, Andy?
Do you know, I've only seen it the once. Seriously, I keep meaning to go back and I just can't seem to find the time.
I came out of this film and I thought that was absolutely fabulous. I thought it was a 10 out of 10 film.
Yeah.
And then I got to write it up and I backed it off to a 9 out of 10 for the film. And I read lots of reviews, and there were lots of reviews that didn't make a lot of sense to me, complaining about the lens flare in the cinematography and everything. I thought, what lens flare in cinema? But I went back again to watch it again, and a lot of things which I never noticed the first time really annoyed me, like the lens flare. Right. And there's a massive amount of Janusz Kaminski using lens flare in the film, which I never noticed when I first saw it, but maybe because I was triggered by it. I thought, God, that really is annoying. And
I mean, Kermode called it an old-fashioned film. What's wrong with being old-fashioned? What's wrong with old-fashioned Hollywood entertainment? Because that's what it was.
I thought it harked back to Spielberg's of old with the lighting. Some of the cinematography I thought was absolutely fantastic. Yeah. There are movements of the camera. There's one in particular right at the beginning of the film where Josh O'Connor and Eve Hewson, who I thought through the whole film was Rachel Weisz, looking really, really good for her age. But it's Eve Hewson in a car driving away, getting away, and the camera starts in front of the windscreen and then pans around them into the back seat. But I thought, how on earth did they do that? It's probably fairly simple practical effect on a boom or something, but it's so beautifully done. And there's another one where they're basically driving down the road and he tells her to duck, and police cars come past, all the baddies' cars come past, and it's another, you see it again, and some of the blocking and some of the camera moves are so impressive that you think that's a real master at work there, is the combination of Spielberg and Kaminski. So I thought that was terrific. The plot, I've seen complaints, it really, I mean, it's basically one long chase movie ending up to an event at the end, which is there enough in the film? So I started off as a 10, and what I'm saying is I've kind of just edged it down a little bit, having seen it again. So I would be really interested to know what you feel about it, Andy, watching it again and analysing it critically rather than just being taken along for the ride, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, trouble is so many films come out and limited amount of time, what with work and everything else. But I mean, I think that this is a film that, as I say, could easily kind of be a sequel. I mean, it's Close Encounters. What had happened if what was going on had got out into public domain in Close Encounters? It's basically he's taken that premise and said, okay, let's twist this on the head and say, if this events of Close Encounters had become public, what would have happened? What would it have looked like?
Yes.
And I also thought Colin Firth was very, very sinister in this. I just loved that role that he played. I thought he got quite nasty at times, and that was a good thing.
Was he cast right in that role? Because Colin Firth is not typically known as Mr. Nasty. And when he first started, I thought, I'm not sure he's right for this. I don't believe that he's Mr. Nasty under the covers.
I think the fact he convinced me that he is nasty proves he was rightly cast. I mean, he's an actor. And he's acting being nasty, you know. I mean, there were some elements that you kind of think, really? You know, the element of an invisibility Harry Potter style cloak, which you think, yeah, okay. But it's science fiction, for Pete's sake. It's entertainment. It's movie popcorn. Go with it. Go with the flow. Don't ask too many questions. If you can ask any question about any movie you ever see. People are saying Supergirl didn't have enough substance. What the heck does that mean? It's a popcorn movie that's meant to be crash, bang, smash, thank you, ma'am. You know,
it's a bit early in the podcast to be baiting people, Andy.
yeah, okay.
Sorry, Emma.
I mean, I enjoyed myself in the cinema, I have to say, particularly the first time I saw it. I enjoyed it. I think it is a film with some flaws, which only kind of appear in the plot and the telling of the story. There's a lot of stuff in there that is unexplained, things that happen with the MacGuffins that you think, well, why did that happen when it didn't happen to another person who picked up the MacGuffin, but it happened to that guy? So there are a number of things, and the CGI animals, they were better than Bobo the monkey, or Bonzo, or whatever Michael Jackson's monkey was called. The CGI was better, but it was still CGI animals.
There's an argument that the CGI animals are terrible deliberately because they're not actually animals. You can make the case.
I mean, I'm not mad about that idea.
I'm not mad about that case.
They are aliens, so they're not meant to look perfect as human animals. That's how I would defend that. And there is an argument going around, a theory going on. That's why
going
the
around a
CGI
psychiatric ward. Yes,
are not that great. Well, could aliens mimic an animal on Earth perfectly?
Yes.
No.
I put it to you. The answer is yes. Okay. Anything else, Emma and Scott, to add on Disclosure Day?
No, I think you guys have covered it very well. It was my favorite film of June as well. I think it had me almost until like the very, very end. I was a 10 with yourself, Bob. And then when it ended, I was just like, and it was just that feeling of I wanted a few seconds more or just something more. I can't say why I was disappointed exactly, but it was just that little bit of no. I wanted to know a bit of information that we were left to guess ourselves. And I've always hated that thing of directors leave an ending up to a viewer's interpretation. Like, no, you're the filmmaker. You tell us what your story is, what your film is, what your ending is. Don't let us make up our own mind on that aspect. This is your film, and you did not end it. So it needed a little bit more for me. But that's a personal preference thing.
Yeah.
But still, it's the best film I've seen in 2026. So,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, that's a glowing endorsement.
I think what I ended up doing, like at the end of the film, I was waiting for the credits to go past, and I just started thinking about A Quiet Place Day One. And I was like, oh, you know what? It kind of reminds me of that sort of idea in comparison to the other Quiet Place movies.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I started to think about it. And I was like, oh, actually, like there is that opportunity left in this film because it leaves you with a couple of questions that I'm like, I could see them doing more films. I also don't want them to make more films because I really enjoyed it as it was. And I think if you do anything else, it's going to ruin that. But I could, like, my brain was just drawing those conclusions, and I had to stop thinking about it because otherwise I was going to go a little insane.
Just to finish, I was going to mention this. I didn't actually mention this in my review, but one of the fantastic performances in the film was by a lady called Courtney Grace playing the NBC anchorwoman at the end of the film. I thought it was such a terrifically emotive piece of work. I mean, the illustrious Mrs. Mann did say, well, why isn't Emily Blunt the one on camera announcing this? Because she was the anchorwoman announcing it. You got this reaction from an NBC anchor person doing it. But I thought that was a terrific performance. And also Elizabeth Marvel as the nun in the convent as Jane's friend. I thought that was a really nicely written piece, bringing in a little bit of religion into the story, which might have been leveraged a bit more, I think, to get a little bit more out of that angle of the story. But yeah, it was good.
Obviously, from my perspective, the religious aspect was really interesting. And I ended up being on a debate on a Christian radio station called Premier Christian Radio about, what would the implications for Christianity, for example, be if there's life on other planets.
Yeah.
None at all.
Okay. So that's your choice, Andy. It was, I know it was Scott and Emma's choice as well. So pretty
Amazing.
uniform. Wasn't my choice of film of the month. My choice of film of the month is actually one that came out right at the very end of last month, and that is Backrooms, which I thought was terrific. In Backrooms, we've got a guy called Clark, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, who manages a very run-down, piratically themed furniture store with some very strange energy quirks. And one evening, he walks through a basement wall to discover an apparently endless labyrinth of strange corridors. Here's a clip.
Look, I know how this sounds, but you gotta understand, it's massive in there.
I'm not saying I don't believe you.
Okay, I'm gonna come back here with proof.
All right, you filming?
Yes. Follow my lead.
Clark, what is this?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I've been here every night since I found the place, and I still barely scratched the surface. All right, just take it slow.
Pull me up! Pull me up! Pull me up! What are you seeing?
There was a film earlier this year. I actually saw it at the London Film Festival called Exit 8, which is very similar in concept to Backrooms. Exit 8 similarly was made around a video game called The Exit 8. And it's about a Japanese businessman who basically gets off a tube train, walks around a subway corridor, and then finds himself in an infinite loop of the same subway corridor and has to get himself out of this. This is kind of almost like an expansion of that. Again, it's based off a video concept, an online concept by a guy called Kane Parsons, who was 19 years old when he actually got this budget from A24 to make this film. He got given $10 million to make the film, and that has proved to be a very good investment for A24, because I just checked and the film has currently made $330 million worldwide from that 10 million investment, which you might think would be the best return on investment of any film this year. But you would actually be wrong, because Obsession, that we talked about last month, I checked the box office for that, and on its $1 million budget, that has made $337 million, which is ludicrous, isn't it? But two fabulous films, and I really like this one. I'm not sure I liked it quite as much as Obsession, but I think both of them are going to find their way into my top 20 for the year. First of all, the production design for this film is just extraordinary. Those of you watching the video will have seen that in the trailer. But they actually built this set. It's not green screen or CGI'd at all. They basically built 30,000 square feet of set over 4 different sound stages, with 32,000 square feet of custom-made wallpaper that they stuck to the wall. So I don't know how much of their $10 million they spent on the set alone, but that must have been a hell of an investment to do. And the maze was actually so complex that the crew and the cast sometimes actually physically got lost in the back rooms themselves while they were filming the film. The script I thought was excellent. There in that clip you saw Clark, Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's actually in a very depressed state after a divorce. He's getting counselling from his analyst, played by Renata Reinsve, who was, of course, so good in Sentimental Value and The Worst Person in the World. She's excellent in this film. The script is clever because it relies on suspense and mystery rather than jump scares. There are a few jump scares in it, but most of the heavy lifting is done in just creating a mood. That's helped a lot by the music, which is by the director Kane Parsons and also Ido van Bremen. There's a really spooky, unnerving, unsettling, atmospheric score that really helps the action. And the script gets increasingly bizarre, leading to an eating scene in the third reel, which I won't spoil, but it just borders on insanity, and it's very clever. Also, some very good supporting roles. Mark Duplass, that you might know from, what's it called? The Morning Show on TV. He plays a white coat suited scientist that gave off me vibes of the Dharma Initiative from Lost, if any of you are Lost fans. There's a sort of Dharma thing going on with a bunch of white-coated scientists observing what's going on, which doesn't make any sense and is never explained. It falls into that bucket you were just talking about, Scott, of things just are not explained at all. And for me, the final shot of the film is just so bizarre and so mind-blowing that I can't actually take in exactly what the thing means. But I thought it was a really terrific, different, innovative movie. Anybody else? Andy?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, I thought that, as you say, this left me with a lot more questions than Disclosure Day did. A lot more. But I didn't care, because I just thought, well, this is what's happening. It doesn't make any sense. It probably doesn't make any sense to the characters themselves. They are totally confused and bemused. As you say, the eating scene is particularly distressing. And I thought that the whole thing just gelled together beautifully. It didn't outstay its welcome. I was a bit worried it was going to be too long and we were just going to see endless shots of endless corridors. But rather like Exit 8, which I was praising, was it last month or the month before? I think it just held your attention all the way through. Even though I didn't really grasp the ending, I just thought, I don't care that we're in the Twilight Zone. Anything can happen in the Twilight Zone. This is what's happening. I just accept it, and I'm being creeped out by it, and that's what I want from a film of this nature.
Yeah. I agree the length of the film was fine, which makes it a bit distressing that Kane Parsons is releasing an extended version with about another 20 minutes of footage coming out
unless
into
it's
cinemas.
got some explanation, unless it answers some of the questions.
I don't think it needs
still
anything.
Not necessary. Not necessary.
No, I don't think it's needed, but there we go. We'll see. Scott?
I think we're lucky that there was an overwhelming choice for worst film of the month. Otherwise, this would have been right down there for me.
Andy.
Don't worry, I'm actually on my I'm going to be on my knees after this stuff, the football.
I'm going to say the first half, boys, I did enjoy. So when it opens, we get that wandering round side of things, sort of, the prelude to what happens. I was on board with that, and I was like, okay, this is creepy. This is atmospheric. I'm enjoying this in a bit of a Blair Witch sort of way. And we get into the main story then with Chiwetel, and I was like, okay, now this is intriguing, but I'm not quite as nervous watching what was happening. But I was on board in the sense of, we don't know what's going on. We're following. I'm thinking, okay, let's find out where this is going to go. So it had me, but it got maybe about halfway through, after maybe a couple of jump scares, and it just kept going. And I was like, okay, now you need to change something up. And it didn't really change up in the way that I was, I suppose, hoping for. And it meant that for the majority of the second half of the film, you mentioned the eating scene, it got a bit weird. And I honestly did get bored for most of the second half. And then at the end, as Andy said, didn't really understand it, but I didn't care. I didn't understand it, but I did care. So I walked out just being like, okay, this is just rubbish. It sets up an atmosphere and has no idea how to conclude it. So very disappointing for me.
Interesting. Emma, which fence are you on?
I am a little more on Scott's side of the fence on this one. The production of it was amazing. The intrigue of, all the different rooms and just the various things we see. I was interested, but at some point I started thinking, wait, this reminds me of something. And the more I saw, like we see in the trailer, things like partially in the floors and the walls, and I could not remember what it reminded me of, and that ended up taking up more of my brain power than watching it, because I got to the same point as Scott, and I was like, you're not telling me enough. You're not going, by the way, this is why we did this thing. So I was annoyed at that point, and then my brain just then started going, deep philosophical thinking here, Emma, let's go for it. What does this really mean? And I was like, I'm not enjoying this enough to have this discussion in my head with myself. So
okay,
yeah,
okay,
something there, but not quite.
Okay, right. Diverse views then on Backrooms. Okay, let's move over to your pick of the month, Emma. Well, actually, your pick of the month was Disclosure Day, I've said. But what was your second pick of films?
So I found myself some delightful nostalgia. Again, this month, we head to Eternia, that is being threatened by the sinister Skeletor, and we must find the lost son who is on Earth, because he always is, and poor little Adam must find his way back to save his planet. Here's a clip of Masters of the Universe.
Adam, when you hold the magic sword, what do you say?
By the power of Grayskull.
Go on. Now you're ready.
Princess returned. I am a devil, but I mean to be a god.
She's got the power.
Okay, thankfully you weren't in charge of musical interludes in the film.
Should have been. Should have been. Yeah.
So we got another, a reboot of old IP. I think it is a Mattel franchise thing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember watching the cartoon when I was younger, and it does hit all of those nostalgic spots. And I genuinely, although I'm a little mad about it, I don't see people who don't have that nostalgia enjoying this film too much. But it was really fun to see this brought to the big screen because I think the action scenes are really fun. And obviously, it's just daft humour. And you get Adam is trying to understand his powers and learn how to use them. So you get that sort of entertainment. I would have liked to have seen more Green Tiger, but never mind, we can't have everything. Better CGI than Disclosure Day, in my opinion, when it comes to animals. But I just enjoyed it all around. Just like I say, I'm here for the nostalgia. That seems to be the most positive feedback you read about it. I thought the guy playing Adam was charming in the right sort of way, and just the ridiculousness really just glossed over some slightly glaring errors and issues that might have been there somewhere. Maybe.
Dire. Horrible.
No, I enjoyed
fantasy, dodgy thing. I'm really not going to enjoy this, I thought, as I went into the cinema. But actually...
Me.
You had us there, Bob.
I had my 1 star at the ready for this film, but actually I thought it was much better than I thought it was going to be. But partly, as you say, because it was just so daft.
I was just going to say, I think there's some points where, like, I was discussing with people after I came out, and the sense of humour that comes out of our villains and our sort of sidekicks, as it were, is batshit crazy. And I was laughing just so hard at some points, but yeah, again, it's potentially quite niche. Like, if you don't have any context for it.
I don't have any context for it, no. But
I
quite enjoyed it. I quite enjoyed it. Yeah. It was a fun popcorn movie. I have to say, it's my favourite ever performance of Jared Leto.
I mean, Skeletor does that to people.
That's really
Scott's
not
having
saying
a moment
lot.
of realisation there.
I'm just thinking Dallas Buyers Club exists.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, no, that's fair enough. I was being facetious, right? But at least Jared Leto. I mean, he's the least scary villain of any film imaginable. I did read that he was going for villainous, but he just comes over as camp Captain Hook in a pantomime with his performance. It's really, really odd. Anyway, other views, Andy, Scott.
Yeah, I thought it was Star Wars meets Flash Gordon, and
Flash Gordon is what it reminded me of.
I mean, the animated series came out when I was at theological college, so I'm too old for the animated series. I never saw it, but I knew the backstory because I'd seen the earlier Dolph Lundgren film, who, by the way, interesting cameo. I just went with it. These action heroes, like I said earlier, crash bang wallop. Let's destroy everything in sight and have fun while we're doing it. Just entertain me, and I love them, and I love this.
Yeah, okay, that's good. So, Scott, you're up last year. You've actually picked an interesting film because it's not often that we get a documentary as one of our favourite films of the month. And again, I think you would have picked Disclosure Day as your favourite. You also had Toy Story in the mix as well, which we may come back to in a minute. But you picked a documentary on Netflix.
Yes. So, first of all, have any of you guys seen this?
This is Maternal Instinct.
Maternal Instinct. So, let me set the scene. You're inside a cop car in Texas. You're driving along. You're following this other car. And you're getting reports from ambulance that have been called, and they're chasing this car. The police stop this person in the car. And what do they find? They find a woman who has a baby. And she's saying, in a frantic manner, guys, I've just had a baby while I'm driving to hospital. Now, they get to hospital, and not all is quite as it seems from her perspective. We get flashbacks, we find out more, but before I carry on, here's a clip.
There's way more good people than there are bad, but there's evil in our land.
911, what's your emergency?
I need an ambulance because I started having my baby.
She's carrying the baby in her lap.
Doesn't it look like she had a baby?
It doesn't?
No.
She was... No.
I don't know what everybody wants me to talk about.
Where'd this baby come from?
It's mine.
Can't be.
So, this woman that you saw there in the clip, her name's Taylor Parker. And we flashback after that introduction that is mostly just a 5-minute clip we see at the start. And we get to meet her. We find out about her boyfriend, her family, and we start to get to know a little bit about her early life and her ambitions about being a mother. We find out pregnancy-related history for Taylor, and it builds, showing certain revelations from the family, certain naive, idiotic behavior from certain people as well. And it all builds to this place where we wonder, as we can see at the start of the film, whose baby is this? Where did it come from? Why does she have it? And, well, I'm going to say that I was watching this with my fiance, who doesn't really like these kind of things, but she was in the room, and then it got to like the last 20 minutes. She was ready to go to bed, and I'm like, no, you've watched it this long. You have to finish it with me. And she came away. I was in the bad books a little bit because she was quite traumatized by this film, and I'm pretty sure anyone else that watch it will come away mildly traumatized. There's a selling point for you.
Did she steal this baby from Rosemary?
I could not possibly comment on Rosemary.
I haven't seen it.
It's one of those things where it's a true crime documentary that just makes you think, I can't believe people exist in this world in this way. And it will leave you cold. It's not an easy watch, particularly towards the end. And you find out information that relates to the real story and how things developed after it that just makes you question society, question court systems, just question people as a race. I think, although I'm not a big true crime documentary viewer, this one, for some reason, appealed to me. It was in the sort of Netflix top film of the day, and I just put it on, and it hooked me so much, and it really did affect me in a way that I was not quite prepared for when I hit play. And so it just stuck with me, speaking about it with people at work. And it was one of those, talking about water cooler moment type things, when we were just speaking about it with a couple of the colleagues that had also seen it, we were getting really animated and quite passionate behind our views of what happened and this woman who will anger anyone who watches this film. So with caution, I would highly recommend watching it. Just be in a good frame of mind before you do, because it can be quite triggering.
Okay. Good. Interesting. It does sound intriguing, I have to say. Right. Okay. So that's your pick. So let's turn from the best of the month to the worst of the month. And last month, was it last month? I think it was last month. We had a Flickering Dreams event. Let's call it an event where all 4 of us picked The Sheep Detectives as our film of the month. And let me tell you, people, we have had another event. The event this time is not as much of an accolade for the film because we all selected this film as our worst film of the month. And here's a clip. It's not Supergirl, no. Here's a clip from the trailer.
Don't show a clip, please. No, I can't watch.
We're here to drink, play bad music, do some half-gay shit.
Why just half gay? There's a serial killer on the loose.
There's only one person who knows how to stop him.
You came. Not in like 15 years, honey.
Why y'all acting so scared? The gun ain't even loaded. Uh-oh, I did it again.
That was fun.
No, it wasn't fun.
Look, I will say that the jokes hit fine on their own until you mix them with all the other shit's jokes.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
This film we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen of the listening and viewing audience, is Scary Movie, which in other words is Scary Movie 6. The 6th in the franchise, none of which I think have been great. But I do vaguely remember laughing at the first one when it came out.
1 and 2 are okay.
This is actually made by the same people who did those first 2 films. And dear viewer / listener, I have never walked out of a cinema due to a film, but this was one of the closest that I have ever come to of just getting out and walking out, as a number of other people did during this film. I just thought it was utterly dire. There were one or two half-baked jokes, many of which were in the trailer, which I thought, okay, that's amusing. But it is stuffed into just 2 hours worth of utter rubbish that was unfunny, not even topical. Like, we've had enough horror films in the last 2 years that you could bank on without having to go back to Get Out, which was like 10 years old now, for an extended scene. Do you think, well, a parody film has to be topical? If it's going to hit with an audience, a lot of the young teens who maybe go to see this movie, or mid-teens, weren't even born to see Get Out when it came out. And maybe they've caught up with it since, but probably not. So for any film like this, there's going to be a parody film, you have to be current, and you have to be topical, and you have to be funny. And there were whole sequences of this film, like there's a takeoff of the church scene in Sinners, which Andy won't have seen because of its theming. But it was just utterly, utterly dire. There was not a single funny moment in that whole sequence. It just went on and on and on. There was a very unfunny sequence about weapons. It was just awful. Has anybody got anything good to say about this film?
I laughed twice, and one of those things was in the credits.
I didn't stay for the credit scenes, I have to say.
Well, in fact, so when was the first one was right at the beginning, which was a Final Destination thing, and that just amused me.
I like the Final Destination theme park. Yes, that was vaguely amusing for a moment.
And then I spent most of it thinking, okay, so they just remade Scream 6 as its own parody, and then why does every joke have to be so exactly on the nose and no subtlety out of it anywhere? The best thing about this movie is not watching any of it, as none of you will be surprised to hear. It's the posters they made for it. I don't know if you saw any of them, but they did their own parody versions of the films that they were parodying, and I thought they were fantastic. They had them showing in my Cineworld, you're just watching them go around on the displays, and I was like, these are amazing. And I sort of got hyped because of that, and now I'm annoyed.
Yeah.
It's equal worst with Tom and Jerry the Flipping Compass, or whatever it was called. I mean, it's just... I didn't even smile once. I just wanted to walk out. I desperately wanted it to end. And what got me was there were references to other scary movies that I'd completely forgotten, and so therefore a lot of it just went over my head. I didn't have a clue what they were talking about.
There were various moments in this where I hadn't got a clue what they were talking about. The ending of a spoof about Demi Moore in, what was it, The Substance. I didn't understand the punchline at all for that. Oh. People behind me were laughing, so it might have been another scary.
There were only a handful of us in my screening. I, like I said, laughed twice. They were hysterically laughing, so I can only assume they were high. That is literally the only thing that can have been true in that instance.
Yeah.
It did okay at the box office. I mean, it went to number 1 for a brief spell at the box office, but why?
I think the word there is brief spell. A number of people went to see it once. Yeah.
That's everyone going, I loved the first couple. I'll go and see this opening day.
Yeah. Scott, you were going to say something.
Well, no, that was kind of me as well, where the Wayans brothers, back in those first 2 films, particularly the second one for me, really worked on a weird level. And I don't know if it was just back at that time, that sensibility of comedy worked better. But yeah, I didn't laugh once throughout this film. I did smile during the opening. I think the Final Destination bit and the Tiana Taylor section, I thought not necessarily laugh out loud funny, but I did smile about, you were saying about the topicalness, the awards joke.
The awards joke landed.
I did find that mildly amusing. And then everything after the name Scary Movie came on the screen, I just hated.
Films like that as well, the language in the film used, I mean, the N-word must have been used like 500 times in that film.
And it wasn't funny the first time.
It wasn't funny the first time for me, and maybe it's funny for some people, but trying to get the shock value out of the dialogue, I thought was just dreadful. So anyway, we're unanimous. We're unanimous in hating Scary Movie. So it shows we do have some taste. Dear listener / viewer, if you really love Scary Movie and you want to abuse us, please write into us at letters@flickeringdreams.com. That's letters@flickeringdreams.com. Or indeed to comment on anything that we say or do on this podcast. Maybe you just want to tell us to stop. Stop! And I have to say, it's a good job that Andy finally remembered that Scary Movie was his worst film of the month, because otherwise he would have had Toy Story 5 as his lowest other ranked film of the month. To be fair, he only gave it a 6 out of 10, but Scott was vying for his number one spot with Toy Story 5, so a bit of a difference of opinion there. I did actually go see it last night. Didn't think it was as good as 1, 2, or 3. I thought it was slightly better than 4, I have to say. And it did actually hit me in the feels at one particular point involving a photograph, which suddenly it got me in the old Pixar magic. I have to say the illustrious Mrs. Mann enjoyed it a lot more than I did. The whole concept of parents letting go and that conflict when you've got a child that isn't fitting in with friends at school and enjoying their life. She really thought it was good. She wouldn't have given it a 10 out of 10, but she'd have given it a 9 out of 10 from that point. Any other views on Toy Story 5 before we wrap that?
No, for me, it was an 8 out of 10 movie. It, for me, is the weakest of the 5, but considering I think the weakest is 8 out of 10, that shows what I think of the franchise.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think that it did really well in setting up Jesse as the main character for a change. Yeah. So much so that although Woody is in it, it wouldn't have really changed much if he wasn't, and that's okay. I thought the fact they've got like a side story for Buzz, or Buzz is, let's say, it was fine, kind of amusing.
I love the Randy Newman music as the army of buzzes, kind of a Russian male choir kind of BTS. That was brilliant.
Yeah, it sets up things for later, let's just say that. But no, I think the whole idea of turning the story away from the toys and focusing on Bonnie was also very smart, because we get to see how humans are really affected by the toys, both in terms of tech and physical sort of toys, so to speak. I will say there is some repetition. Like, there are elements of this that feel like the original Toy Story, in that we've got something being replaced by something else, and then the comeback from that.
Yes.
I'll acknowledge it does sort of tread water a little bit on that, but it's just on those characters. There's something about those characters. Maybe it's my age as well, that going back to them, there's something nostalgic about it. They feel just comforting. I would have liked a little bit more of our sort of side characters, Rex, Slinky, Mr. Potato Head, things like that.
Yeah.
Instead, we get the sort of new ones with the weird butt cleaning tech toy thing that I didn't like that character. Mildly amusing for about 2 seconds, and I was like, what is this? Is that a real thing? Probably. But yeah.
But even kind of slightly off-key Pixar is still great cinema, isn't it?
Mostly.
Did anyone hear the best review of them all, in my opinion? Somebody sent a review to Como de Mayo saying they went to see it with their young children, and halfway through one of the children said, "Daddy, can we go home and watch the real Toy Story?"
Ooh.
And if that's what the kids are saying, I saw it in an audience with kids. Actually, I might have been a bit distracted because 2 families came in with babies in prams.
Man.
And that's not good. I don't approve of that, I've got to be honest. And one of the babies did
Unless it's a
cry.
baby screening.
Yeah, exactly. Mother and baby. It wasn't. So I might have been a bit distracted, but the kids in the audience that I saw were totally disengaged. I was watching them at times when I was watching the film, and they just were not into it. Okay. And I thought the comment about, can we go and watch the real Toy Story, for me summed it up. But
I don't think this film is even for kids. these films are for us that grew up with the original trilogy.
Yes,
They are.
indeed.
So it doesn't matter what kids think, it's what we think that counts, Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's important. Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
So I think that's the lot for this month. We've got a lot more interesting films coming out in July. We're hitting the big budget summer blockbusters. And so we will see you at the end of next month for another Flickering Dreams. We'll let Andy get back to his football of...
No, I've got to go to a meeting now. No rest for the wicked.
Never
Or
raise,
the
but it
righteous.
pours. Okay, guys, thank you very much for joining. And thank you at home for watching us on Flickering Dreams. So we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to Flickering Dreams. Don't forget you can watch the video version on either YouTube or Spotify and listen to the audio version on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe to receive future episodes direct to your inbox. And please write to us with your views on movies that we've talked about at letters@flickeringdreams.com. We'd love to hear from you.